take a look at how we do some basic conversions here, from fractions to decimals to percents, and just kind of back and forth among those three. Take my mask off here. So fractions to percents are a fairly common conversion that you'll have to do. So we'll start with that one. All right. So again, I've got some notes thrown together over here we can kind of look at. So get this out of the way. Okay. So fractions to decimals. Okay. Essentially, we want to divide the numerator, the top number in that fraction, by the denominator, the bottom number. If there's a whole number in the fraction, right? We don't want to change to improper and then do all that. If there's a whole number in the fraction, just keep it as the whole number in the decimal. Okay. So like my example there, I've got 2 1/8. Right, 2 1/8 is going to be 2 point something. The whole number stays. We don't mean to turn that into 17/8. Okay, just keep the whole number. Okay, and then again, 1/8, we just want to do 1 divided by 8 to get 0.125. So 2 1/8 would be 2.125. Okay, I'm going to look at one other example here. I'll say it's something like 3/5. Right, I wanted to turn that into a sorry about that. So I want to turn that. So all I simply want to do is do the numerator divided by the denominator. Okay, easy peasy. Right, nothing to it. You can use a calculator if you need to on that. It's just numerator divided by denominator. Common error I'll see students go is, well, there's a 3 and a 5, so it must be 0.35. Right? Okay, you got to do a numerator divided by a denominator. If we think about it, 3/5. Right, that's equal to 6/10. 6/10 as a decimal is 0.6. Okay, so just divide there. All right, just divide. Okay. All right. Once I have it as a decimal, then, if I want to change it to a percent, I simply multiply by 100 to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. Okay, so you see my examples there. I've got 0.6. Okay, if I move that 2 places to the right, there's 1. There's 2, so I have to add a 0 in there. Okay, so that would be 60%. Okay, 3.5. Can I move it once? Add a 0, move it twice. 350%. Okay, and 0.005. Again, move it once, move it twice. 0.5%. So sometimes it's a little confusing when we say change a decimal to a percent and it still has a decimal point. Okay, percents can still have decimal points. Decimal is just a type of a number. It's kind of the standard way of writing a number. We call that a decimal. Okay, so you can still have decimal points in percents. Again, we're always just moving it twice. Okay, percent means out of 100. If we multiply by 100, our decimal moves 2 places to the right. Okay. All right, now, if we want to then take a fraction to a percent, it's simply combining those two processes, right? So my first one there, I've got 3/8. Right, I change it to a decimal. 3 divided by 8, 0.375, and then I just move that decimal point 2 places to the right. Okay, 37.5%. Okay, got that one there on the bottom. Let's add 1 over 200. Right, I just do 1 divided by 200 to get 0.005. Again, just moves over 2 places to get 0.5%. Okay, so fraction to a percent, again, kind of a common conversion that you'll do in math. Just divide to get that decimal, move that decimal point over 2 places. Okay, now if I want to do the opposite, if I want to start with a percent and change it to a fraction, okay, the first thing I want to do is change it to a decimal. All right, so percent to decimal to percent, we move right 2 places. Multiply by 100% of decimal, we're just going to undo that. So we're going to divide by 100, move the decimal point left 2 places. Okay. So you can see my example, some examples there. I've got 25%. Okay. If I want to make that a decimal, I just move it left 2 places. Okay. 310%. Just move it left 2 places. Okay. 1.8%. Here I've got to add a 0 out front. 0.018. Okay, so again, you have decimals more than one, with 2 digits, with 3 digits, you're just moving that decimal point left 2 places. Okay, and then finally, when we want to get it to a fraction, All right, decimal to a fraction, we just have to use the place value. So I kind of like to use the kind of the 3 steps of say it, write it, reduce it. Okay. So for example, if I've got my example there, 0.64, I would read that as 64 hundredths. Okay. And again, if you're struggling reading it, just look at what's the last digit. The last digit is in the hundredths column. Okay. Got that there on the note sheet if you need a little reminder, but we'd read that as 64 hundredths. I would write that as 64 hundredths and then just reduce that down. Okay. Do one more of those. All right, let's say I had 3.24. I'd read that as 3 and 24 hundredths. Okay, and then that would simplify down into 3 and 6/25. Okay, so use that place value, right? It might be 0.012. Okay, I'd read that as 12, and this time tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Okay, and then reduce down. Let's see if I can do that. 3 over 250. Okay. So again, we just say it. Right. If you're struggling with how to say it, look at that last digit that tells you your place value. Write it as a fraction, and then you simply reduce it. Okay. Again, if you get a little stuck, refer back to the notes here as needed. Okay, we got fraction to decimal, decimal to percent, fraction to percent, decimal to fraction, percent to decimal, and percent to fraction.